We've got the top 10 fantasy baseball drops coming up next on Beat the Odds. Don't go anywhere. Hello, baseball fans. Welcome back to another episode of Beat the Odds. We're going to check in on our top 10 drops here on your fantasy baseball squads. If you like this type of content, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so that way you will be notified whenever an episode happens to drop. As a reminder, we are looking for players that are owned in about 60% of leagues or more that you can safely consider dropping from your squad. Let's get started here at number 10. Matt Chapman is the first one on the list here. 92% owned, 6 runs, 2 homers, 6 runs batted in, 186 average over the last 2 weeks. Now, Chapman had the hottest of all starts here in the major leagues in April, and it has cooled down considerably since then. Toronto's also shuffling their lineups. Chapman is now dropped to the 6th spot here. Let's not forget, though, that he had a 229 average last season, and it's very possible that Chapman will hit under 240 by season's end. Let's go to number 9. We have Tim Anderson, 81% owned, 2 runs scored last week, 1 run batted in, 1 stolen base, 211 average. He has been battling injuries all season long, and he's leading off for a team that's struggling to score runs. That equates to some serious underproduction for Tim Anderson. Toss in no homers and 200 at-bats. I'm going to be looking elsewhere for production in that shortstop spot. At number 8, we have C.J. Cron, 67% owned here. He has been injured out since mid-May. There hasn't really been any positive news coming out of Colorado due to this injury. Cron's got no timetable for return. And at this point, with the way that his back is holding up, he may miss too much of the season to stash on an IL spot in your league. Let's go to number 7. We have Luis Severino, 83% owned. In the last 2 weeks, he's posted 13.2 innings pitched, 12 strikeouts, 10.54 ERA, 2.05 whip. He's been struggling immensely since his return. He had a couple of solid starts, but has just fallen off the rails completely. But that's not really uncommon for pitchers to struggle coming back from an injury like he has been. They need time to readjust to the league. At number 6, we have Adam Duvall, 62% owned, 2 runs scored, 1 stolen base, 111 average over the last 2 weeks. He was quite possibly the league's hottest hitter before he went down on the IL. He could be the coldest hitter since return. He is a big power bat. He's got some swing and miss in his game. But if you take a look in the waiver wires, it's quite possible you'll be able to find quite a few players of his profile for quite a bit cheaper that you can plug in and will perform better than Duvall is performing right now. Over to number 5, we have MJ Melendez, 64% owned, 3 runs scored, 4 runs batted in, 1 stolen base, 283 average over the last 2 weeks. Royals are just downright awful, so MJ is going to play, but his catcher ability just isn't enough to warrant rostering him right now. He has been showing some life at the plate. He's still quite a bit unlucky. He has a really good batting profile, but he's got a lot of swing and miss. So if he can get that cleaned up, he won't be on this list. But until then, there's just too many catchers out in the league right now that I would pick ahead of MJ Melendez. Over to number 4, we have Bryce Elder, 85% owned in leagues, 11.1 innings pitched over the last 2 weeks, 9 strikeouts, 7.15 ERA, 1.32 whip. My not so hot take on Bryce Elder is that he's going to be a below average pitcher for the rest of the season. He's not a flamethrower. He's not really keeping runners off base with a good mark here. He makes for a risky play night in, night out. He plays for a great team, so he's going to get lots of run support. But if you're looking to trim your average stats for pitchers, I don't think Bryce Elder is your guy. Let's go to number 3. We've got Scott Barlow, 72% owned. 3.2 innings pitched here last season, 1 save, 6 strikeouts, 7.36 ERA, 1.91 whip. I'm not a huge fan of putting relief pitchers on here. I have actually been commented on that here in the past, that saves are tough to get here this year, but you have to hear me out on Scott Barlow. Royals, again, are a mess, but unlike MJ Melendez, Barlow's role isn't as secure. There's Aroldis Chapman waiting in the wings should Barlow continue to struggle. And right now, with the way that he's walking batters, that might be a reality. So just keep an eye on that situation. If there is a change, I would be dropping Scott Barlow immediately. At number 2, we have Jake Cronenworth, 65% owned. Last 2 weeks, he had 5 runs scored, 1 homer, 5 runs batted in, 1 stolen base, 226 average. I do appreciate players that can play multiple positions, but not when they offer very little value in any of the positions that they are rostered. I would say the best you'll be able to get out of Jake Cronenworth is a player that can hit 260, 270, maybe 15 home runs over the course of the season. That's just a pass in my books. Very, very fringe for rostering a player like that. And at number 1, we have Jeff McNeil, 71% owned, 5 runs scored in the last 2 weeks, 1 homer, 4 runs batted in, 240 average. I can live with a Jeff McNeil when he's hitting 300 for the season, but he's becomes a much larger liability the further from that mark that he bats. He offers very little power, he offers very little speed, and if he can't get his average up, he's just too much of a liability in those other categories to be worth rostering on any team. And that's going to do it here for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it here. If you did, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, of course. We are going to sign off for now, but we are going to catch you guys on our next episode.